Hi, welcome to Money Confidence. I'm Crystal Oculee, the Chief Financial Strategist here at Confidence Wealth. And today what I wanted to talk a little bit about, just because it's a subject that I keep hearing about, is being really careful about identity theft, people taking money out of your accounts and things like that, like whether it's your checking account, your saving account, it doesn't really matter. This is just a combination of different types of things that are happening that I'm noticing. And what are the things you should watch out for? We're actually going to be doing a webinar on this and looking at security, cyber security and the things to watch out for. But in this particular segment, I'm just going to talk about a few different things that I've seen and just conversations I had with clients that shared with me. So let's start with one thing that I'm noticing a lot on Facebook. There are groups that ask questions. They're trying to excite the crowds, where they're asking things like, who was your favorite third grade teacher or first grade teacher? What street? Do you remember the name of the street you lived on? I bet you don't. Or things like your favorite color, whatever it may be. Some of these questions are literally the security questions that your banks normally would ask you. And through these exciting, like I bet you won't remember, I bet you won't know this. They're getting people involved with their answering questions. In my opinion, just if you don't know the person that's asking you a question, unless this is your friend and you're having fun, why are we even answering these? Don't even bother answering, because I'm actually seeing quite a few of my clients answering some of these things. They're popping up on my Facebook, and then I'm reaching out to them going, I really don't think you should be answering these questions, because you don't really know what it is and why the reason behind why they're asking is. So these are the things I want you to watch out for. Also, one thing that is happening a lot is that they're calling, right? There are these calls that are coming in. We already know and heard of the Social Security, right? I'm calling from the Social Security office. Yeah, that doesn't really happen, right? Social Security calling you. So be careful about those things. But also where they're calling and they're randomly choosing like different brokerage firms, where they're calling and saying, hey, I'm calling from Fidelity, or I'm calling from TD Ameritrade, or I'm calling from whatever, Charles Schwab. And it's random, but they're saying that and say, we noticed an activity on your account. We just want to make sure everything is okay. And through that conversation, they start getting things from you where it was really not that company itself. So if you're doubting what's going on, just be sure. So example, if someone's calling you from TD Ameritrade or Charles Schwab and you're like, is this really true? Just reach out to the servicing team. Call us, call the team. That's what you have us here for, to make sure, is this really true? Is really TD Ameritrade or Charles Schwab calling me? Is this really coming from for my benefit, or is this something that's just random? So be really careful answering questions like that. So these are the things that I'm hearing, the type of things that are happening where, and I'll give you another one, the whole coin, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, things like that have been very, very popular and people are thinking about. There are actually certain, groups that are calling in saying that's what you're purchasing, but that's not really what you're getting. Or even precious metal. I'll give you an example. One of my clients just recently showed me 2 coins where one was real, one was fake, because they sold him a fake coin. So in every aspect, there is fraud in different things that occur. So what's important is really understanding that who is the caller on the other side, what it is that they're saying, and is that really real? Is that true? Also, if you're conducting a transaction, whether it's for precious metal or not, is this company legitimate? Who am I on the phone with? So be really careful about that. The other thing that I've noticed is happening a lot with especially elderly, the older someone is just they're calling and they're saying to them that their account is maturing and that they need to make some decisions. And in these cases, some of these are not the typical fraud. They're just rolling over something into another thing. So they're like replacing what the person has with another term. So let's say you had an investment that was maturing, that already matured. They'll just put you in another investment that now has another 5-year maturity or another 10-year maturity. So be really careful about that too, because sometimes you don't really know if that's really your bank calling, and is that really what they're doing, or is just someone on a cold call that randomly happened to get you. You happen to have something that was maturing, and then they ended up having you do something different. I mean, this is one of my personal clients, and she's just turned 85, and she had this is people she knows on a personal level that were trying to get her to put some her money in something that was going to lock her up for 5 years. Well, at 85, does that really make sense? And even if this was people that she knew on a personal level, it just doesn't make sense. So I want you to have this alert on that. That's why you have your advisor. Give us a call. Make sure that the decision you're making is the right decision. Don't allow someone to also pull you over in the middle of the store. This is another fraud that I've been hearing that's happening a lot, where they call you, like let's say you're shopping at Home Depot and a phone call comes in, and they put you on the call, and they're like, hey, this is a certificate you're redeeming. We need some more information from you. And that's how they're getting information, because you think you're about to get a gift card, and it's not even the employee at Home Depot. So you have to be really careful about all these different things that exist out there now. And, there's different types of frauds that are happening right now. Also, not to mention, be really careful about your elderly parents, of anything that may be happening to them, any phone calls they're getting in. They're very lonely. They're not seeing everybody with this world of social distancing, and they're not able to have those long conversations or meetings they had necessarily with you, the grandkids, and so forth. Maybe they get bored and a phone call is coming in and they're talking them into doing some things that really is not necessarily what they should be doing, or in some cases an actual fraud. So you really want to be careful about that. So I always think there's things that you have to worry about when it comes to identity theft, cyber, all of these different things. One other thing that I recently heard about was deeds, that you can actually lock your deed, because there are people that go out there and change the name on the deed, try to sell your house. And it was interesting. I actually heard a commercial the other day on TV that was talking specifically about this, saying that lock your deed, because that's not even covered through certain insurances. If something like that happened, your home insurance doesn't necessarily cover that. So if someone, playing a fraud of selling your house and putting the deed under their name. So again, I'm looking a little deeper into these things, and that's why I'm planning on having that webinar to look at different kind of identity theft that are happening out there, so we can all be smarter and wiser and make sure that you don't give information freely. This is really, really important. You do not know who the person on the other end of the line is. If you're banking with Bank of America, you don't know if that's really your bank calling. So you really want to make sure, unless you're calling that number, unless you reached out, then you know that that's actually accurate. So again, these were things that were just coming up, and I wanted to make sure we touch base on. Let's also talk about different kinds of safety. So about right before COVID happened, I think it was a little bit towards the end of 2019, we had an event, and the event we held actually in Torrance, and that event specifically was about where we had a police officer came and talked about being careful out there and being safe. We're making sure if someone comes and they're asking for your wallet or your purse, what you would do. So there are a few tips that I heard during that event. And recently I saw one of my friends that post some of those same things, that she was at an actual safety webinar, and that's what they talked about. So for example, if someone comes up to you and they want your purse or your wallet, one of the things the police officer said was throw it away from you, like much further to the other direction. So they turn around and then they go to get the purse or get the wallet, and you run. So these are the things that I would have thought about. Or they say if you are in a car and someone gets in the car with you and they're going to hold a gun and say drive off, one of the recommendation I heard a police officer saying recently in the article that I read was just drive as fast as you can into something, like hit a wall, hit anything, get into a crash, because the chances are they're not belted, so they get hurt, and then you can hopefully survive and leave. I know this sounds, you're like, Crystal, why are you talking to me about these things? But we all hear headlines, we all hear things, and sometimes it's these little things that if someone told us, maybe we could have done a better job and he could have safeguarded us and we could have been safe about it. So that's the reason why I thought it was a good idea to touch base to some of these things and talk to your kids, talk to the grandkids, and make sure they know what are the little tips and different things that they can do to make sure they're protected. If you are in a parking lot, especially you ladies, because a lot of times that's what a lot of times happens. You get in your car in the parking lot and maybe you're touching your lipstick or you're organizing your receipts before you go. That's the big no-no. Don't do that in a parking lot anywhere. Just get in your car and drive off. So one of the things that I hear happens is there's like big trucks or, they come, or a van that parks next to your car. They've already checked out that who's going into that car and they're waiting for you to go in, so then they can just like open the car and snatch you or get in your car, and worse things that can happen. So you really want to make sure that you don't sit in your car in a parking lot. The moment you get in your car, you go to your destination, do your organizing, put your lipstick on when you get in your own garage. So these little tiny things that you hear have saved so many lives. And that was exciting about the blog that I had read. And between, again, physical safety, especially now, just because, we hear crimes are a little bit higher than usual. We unfortunately have a lot of the homeless situation and things like that. Just be on alert more than you've ever been before. And then obviously then there is this, the whole online security, making sure that you're careful about what information you're putting in and all of that. Also, it's really at the end of the day about watching what's happening out there, right? So example, let's talk about managing and looking at your funds. So for our clients, we have Confidence Vault. So one of the things that is great about that vault is that you can tie all your different accounts. It's like a window that feeds information that shows your bank balance, your 401k at work, your accounts here with us, all of that in one place. So then it's easy to take a look at your phone and maybe look up and say, oh, how does my balance look? How does all of this look? So I'll give you an example. One of my clients, because that's one of the things she does, and she does that on a regular basis, and so does her husband. They noticed all of a sudden there was a withdrawal of a little over 100,000, and that didn't sound right, because how did that happen? It wasn't a loss in investment. They looked it up, and sure enough, there was a bank transfer that had happened at their bank. So they were able to catch it. But because they were looking at all their investments and everything under one place, it gave them that alert that they were able to see that. Because sometimes it's very difficult. You go on your bank online, then you got to go to your investment online, then you got to go to like all the different things, your credit cards, all of that. But in one spot, if you're getting all that information, it's a window to everything. Why not utilize that the best way possible? So again, I know I talked a little bit of all these different things, and the reason sometimes I do come and have these quick live segment conversations is because of conversation that's happening throughout the day, the meetings that I'm having. So whether I'm meeting with a client, whether I'm talking to a friend, the things that are happening out there, when they share that with me, these are the things I think about. And I go, well, let me just bring it up in these conversations. So then that way I alert you. So you start thinking and watching out for things that are really, really important security, where again, physical, online, identity theft, stealing, whatever the case is. If you put the right things in place where in a sense you're looking at your assets, or you're getting like LifeLock, or you're locking your credit, or you're locking your deed on your house, so all these different things that can alert you if something is happening, it'll make your life a lot easier. It's like anything else. No one likes to talk about these things unless it happens. Then when it happens, that's what I notice. When people get their identity stolen, that's when they start looking at things differently. They start becoming safer. They get the programs that they need. They lock their credit. But it's like, it has happened already. chances of it happening again is very slim. It's all of you that this hasn't happened to. Why not take a look at different things, make sure you have all your T's crossed and your I's dotted. And as I said, I am going to be holding an actual online session where I will bring the right experts in to talk about these different areas of things to watch out for. So then I can make sure you're well educated and that you make sure these things don't happen to you or your loved ones. But I thought really quickly, I'll come online today and talk about these little tiny stories and put you on alert, and you should soon get the invitation and we'll get the ball rolling on this and get you educated. Until next time, have a great one.